For a closer look at the Philippine economy, I'm joined by Mike Hawkins, a professor at Creighton University. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Good to have you. Now, the World Bank ranks the Philippines as the 10th fastest growing economy in the world. What do you attribute that to?
I think for the first time in a long time, at least domestically, there's a real sense of emerging stability. For the longest time, I think a lot of entrepreneurs were wary of placing capital in various places. Corruption seemed endemic. And I think that Duterte's regime has really presented, at least the perception is, at least a sense of order in which not only internationally, but I think domestically, people are a little bit more willing to go out and venture investments, begin new projects, employ others, begin construction projects. And so I think at this point, it may just be perception, but there's a great deal more confidence. I can say that.
So with that confidence, how would you characterize the overall health and state of the economy?
Again, these are relative statements, but I would say for the first time in a long time, it's good. As you mentioned, the growth is something that they hadn't seen in quite some time. And while that's a good indicator, I think more importantly, we can see that in 2016, the Philippines added nearly 1.5 million jobs. And this is the real trick, I think, in the Philippines, is seeing whether the kind of wealth increase will trickle down in a way that benefits the entire country. And this has always been the challenge. I mean, we can look at this growth, and I think there's reason to be optimistic. I think that there's reasons for investment. But we do always have to take into consideration that the growth is always asymmetrical in at least two ways. The first of which is that it's a problem that's I'm afraid, plagued the Philippines since Spanish times, and that's that the wealth primarily goes to the top 40 or 50 families in the Philippines. And so we still have troubles of static capital, monopolistic ownership of telecommunications, these kinds of things. And the second asymmetry I think we need to be aware of is region-specific. While I think there's been pretty positive improvement in many areas, we can't forget that the southern Philippines is hurting economically and I think in other ways. I just recently came back from Mindanao and had shipping companies and investment firms and even basic transportation that told me how glad they were to see me there because people simply don't come down anymore.
And Mike, speaking of Mindanao, we know that the World Bank recently talked about the importance of finding peace in that area. Why is that so important?
Well, again, it's always that thorn of instability. I think, of course, one of the primary objectives of terrorist organizations is to hurt the financial sector through causing instability and lack of investment, hurting local populations in the country at large. I am cautiously optimistic that there is going to be a resolution to this. As I said, I was recently there and did a great deal of investigation and research, not only with refugees coming out of Marawi, but with local populations now under martial law. And while there's quite a bit of unease, I actually got the same sense of optimism for stability or eventual stability, even in the south, as I heard in the north, in Manila, in Pangasinan, in Benguet, and places like that. And so I may be a hopeless optimist, but I do have hope.
Gotcha.
I think that eventually will come.
Now, what about in terms of missed or untapped economic opportunities in the Philippines? What should the country be capitalizing on?
That's really a great question. It's difficult because in the Philippines, there are so many, it seems, kind of push-pull factors in that, as Duterte mentioned in his recent speech, one of the basic goals is just sort of self-sufficiency in terms of food. On the one hand, he mentioned scaling back regulations, promoting more exploration of natural resources, which I think is probably their best opportunity for immediate wealth. But this is entangled, of course, with a variety of issues: the destruction of the environment, rather complicated relations with China, and energy exploration in the South China Sea. Nevertheless, I again feel that there is an optimistic tone coming not only from Duterte, but from other concerns about slowly reconciling and reaching agreements with the Chinese and with others about energy exploration and the development of natural resources in the Philippines.
Well, certainly seeing some positive momentum there. Thank you so much, Professor Mike Hawkins of Creighton University.